Joining us now via Zoom is Tim Farris. Tim is with Upstream Investment Partners, a West Bloomfield organization. Tim is speaking to us, though, from his home in Novi. And, Tim, you look good there on Zoom. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well today.
Well,
Thanks for having me on.
That's good news. So how are you doing with the whole? I ask this of everybody before we get into the meat and potatoes of the interviews. How's it going at home? Are you doing okay? Is your family healthy? And
Well, it's this is an interesting situation. I'm a firsthand example of COVID. My kid's grandmother is in the hospital right now on a ventilator. She had her 80th birthday last Wednesday while she was sleeping on the ventilator. And so we're coping with that, as well as I was sick last week as well.
so now you say you were sick. Did you just have a cold, or did you have any?
No, this was clear. This was the virus. I've been on medication for the last week and a half. So all the tells were there beyond, just it's in our head. We all think we're sick.
Right.
Ultimately, it was the fever that really kind of was the indicator, and then the cough.
So I hope you don't mind me asking about this. How high was your fever, Tim?
102.
Oh, wow. So you called your doctor, I presume. Did they have you go in, or did they just have you treat yourself at home?
No, we just went over it. I mean, it's pretty clear what the circumstances are, and ideally, you don't really want to go in. That was kind of what was conveyed to me. And especially considering the other situation with my kid's grandmother, Barbara Nemtronic. She's a West Bloomfield resident. Literally one of those ones where you went to the doctor on a Thursday, and by Sunday you had it, and by Monday you were in a coma. So you really, that's just surreal to see those kind of things happen. But really drives home the points about people tending to their affairs.
Well, and that's what we're going to talk about. I want to get into that. Just one more quick question, though. I hope you don't mind me asking one more quick question. So what did they do as far as treatment for you? What have you been doing?
The treatment, what was really great, because this was early on in the process. So, 10 days ago, today being the 1st, it was probably around the 20th. What you saw people doing is originally what it was they were putting you on a Z-Pack to start. And that's one of the two things that have been really effective with treating the beyond the COVID, because COVID ultimately isn't what's going to take somebody down. It's going to be the ancillary problems that come as a result of it. So when I was on the medication at first, it was going pretty good. My fever broke in about 5 days, but the cough was unrelenting, and it was one of those coughs that wouldn't release. It was a real tight cough. And that would lead to coughing attacks, and then your breathing would then be very shallow and pressure in your chest and that nature. And you'd have these coughing attacks, and it got to the point where you have a couple of them in a row, and it's like, okay, one more, and I'm going to have to go to the hospital.
Right.
You can't breathe.
Well,
so the treatment was that, and then ultimately cough medicine, and I have asthma, so an inhaler.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate that. I had no idea. This is not why we called to talk to you, but that's really helpful, because Tim, a lot of, like myself today. Okay. So I get up this morning and I got like a little headache, and it just didn't feel like right on my game. And then so our heads start spinning. Well, what is this? You read everything online. I don't have a cough. Maybe a little baby fever, certainly nothing over 100 degrees. We're going to double check that when I get off the air. But, just like nothing really going on. I'm sure I'm okay, but your head starts spinning a little bit. So what your story is really helpful, because it helps us know that if we got it, we're going to know. There's not going to be a whole lot of question.
Yeah. No, it took me 3 days, and you're kind of to your point of the, where my mind was at is like, okay, is that just psychosomatic? Is it my allergies? But then ultimately when the fever came, that was the tell, and that's when you had to really address it.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your story. You are not Dr. Tim Farris, but we appreciate your medical information. Tim has Upstream Investment Partners. So, Tim, what should we be doing right now? Let's talk about as individuals, not necessarily business people. What should an individual be doing with their financial life right now to make sure that they're in the best position to take care of whatever might confront them?
That's a really important question, and a lot of it really kind of circles back around to your relationship with your financial advisor. One of the first things that a financial advisor will tell you is that you need to have an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months worth of your income or expenses, just in case for that rainy day or for a situation like we just came across. You know, that is one of the things that over time people kind of like drift away from. And that's become very relevant with all of a sudden the music stopped and everybody's business kind of came to a standstill. So the first thing was to make sure that everybody had that financial buffer in place. And the second thing is your affairs. Does your other family members know where you keep all your important documents? Do you have a sheet with all of your passwords on it that are accessible for somebody? I call it kind of like a lifeboat drill. We all have been on a cruise before, and the thought being is that before you get to enjoy the cruise, you go through the lifeboat drill so you know where the boats are. So in the event that they have issues, you know where to get to the lifeboat. Same thing holds true with our finances. We need to have a place where we keep all our financial information so that if something does happen or you're away from your home for a period of time, somebody else can stand in for you, whether it be your spouse, your children, or another person. So those are the two real kind of clerical pieces that I try to get to people, to make sure that you have all your documents in order, have all of your financial situation in order. And then the third thing, and this is where people struggle right now, is volatility. Volatility is very uncomfortable. The market drew down roughly 35% in a very short period of time. It stirred up a lot of emotions, as well as the media in today's day and age. When you look at television, they're trying to capture your attention. So they're going to kind of put it out there in a way that's going to try to capture your attention. And at first that drew everybody in, but then honestly, everybody got scared. But what I want to convey to people is that historically, this is something that happens periodically, but it does not last forever. And the one thing that I share is a stat that's almost as good as gravity. In the history of the stock market over a 10-year period of time, honestly, investing the day before the worst day, crash of 29, crash of 87, 2001, 2008, you held on for 10 years, you got your money back.
Yeah, do you remember J.P. McCarthy on WJR? Were you a listener, JP's?
Oh yeah, that's the rest of the story.
He had that was Paul Harvey, but I got it.
That was PJ Harvey, but
I know you know who JP is. So he used to say something all the time that I like to repeat, and maybe it isn't his comment, but he used to say, "Bulls make money, bears make money, pigs end up in the mud." You know, and that's just like
pigs get slaughtered.
Right, pigs get slaughtered. I mean, it's not, just trying to see the long haul, right? Is that what you're advising people?
Yeah, well, it's a couple different things. Okay, so like number one, this is a process, not an event. Bottoms in the stock market are going to happen over time. They're not going to be last week. The reality of our situation, the market is a forward-looking instrument. So what the market immediately priced in was our current situation, which kind of took us by surprise. Ultimately, the market will then start to price in when we can start to see the other side of this. So being defensive, number one, that is important. By that, I mean maintaining within your investments, 10 to 20% in cash, so that in the event that the market does draw down, you're in a position to take advantage of it. I've been in the business roughly 30 years. And when I started down in Florida, back in the early 90s, my clients were retirees. So if you can imagine somebody that in 1990 had been in the market for 30 years and was 70 years old, it was a really interesting perspective. And what I gleaned from working with clients like that over time was cash is king during these types of situations. Making sure that you have enough buffer in your investment portfolio will keep you from overthinking. Too often people are uncomfortable, and it's really because they're overinvested. Mm-hmm. By pulling back some of their investments, it allows them to be able to ride out the storm, knowing that in 2001, for example, it was several years before the stock market really started to turn back up. So quick recovery is not going to be the case. But we know that the economy in our country is going to be fine. It is proven through several wars, several recessions, the Great Depression, that we're going to be fine. But this is a global phenomenon, and this will have echoing effects for some time.
Yeah, there's so much going on here, and we're not going to get through it today, but there is so much going on here that is going to reverberate in so many different directions. Trade with China just being one of them. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens, and we're all hoping that that this is a V. We want to flatten the curve with the coronavirus, but as the business cycle goes, we want to be a V. It was a steep decline. We want it to be a steep return. We're all keeping our fingers crossed. Tim, thank you very much for your advice. We only got a couple of more minutes. Business owners, business people, small business people, boy, we got our hands full right now. What are your thoughts for them?
Yes, when it comes to that, for example, yesterday I took advantage of the SBA site. Part of being a financial advisor is being a guide. And some of the times you have to kind of go walk through the process at first to make sure that you understand so that people can take advantage of programs that are available through the Small Business Association. And it's about a 15-minute opportunity for you to walk through your finances on a website. You plug in the information, and then you're in line. This will be a first-come, first-served basis for small businesses. But the important aspect is that Federal Reserve has already said once that if we have to come back for more money, we'll come back for more money. We need to make sure that our businesses understand the process to get involved with this. And a lot of times that's, we're too busy running our businesses to necessarily have the time to sit down and go walk through some of these things. But sba.gov is the website. And on the West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, we do have some great links to some of the resources that are available. So we would expect that, anticipation, and we really don't know, is as these curves bend, as you refer, in New York in a couple weeks, Detroit, hopefully by, the end of April, beginning of May, you'll start to see things kind of come back into fold when it comes to our businesses. The capital access that we're all going to have access to as a small business owner, they're saying it's going to be pretty darn quick as Friday for some businesses if you've applied through your local bank.
Yeah, we got great advice from Joe. We got great advice from Joe Bowman earlier today from the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber. I thought he put it in a really good way. He said 3 steps. A, take a breath. Everything's going to be okay. B, talk to your accountant or financial guy like you or gal, and then talk to your bank, because it's the bank for this. A lot of these small business loans, you're going to do it right through your local bank right now, and then get the information from the web. So great advice. I appreciate you taking time for us today, Tim. It not only is your financial advice very helpful, you look pretty upbeat and happy, and I'll tell you what, you're looking great for a guy who is still recovering from the coronavirus. I had no idea when we called. I really appreciate you sharing your story. A local West Bloomfield business person, Novi resident. Our best wishes for, was it your grandmother who is?
Yeah, it was my kid's grandmother.
Your kid's grandmother. So best wishes for her for a complete and speedy recovery. And I'm glad you're on the mend and doing well. And it's reassuring for all of us who are watching and listening today to know that our neighbor Tim Farris is on the good side of this. So hopefully we're going to have a lot. Hopefully, we're going to have a lot of good stories. Tim, let's keep in touch, okay? Thanks for great advice. And
all right, thank you.
Thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. Tim Farris joining us today.